So welcome everyone. I'm Jeff Zacabe. I'm the chapter lead for Data for Good here in Calgary. And we're very excited to be launching our micro-Datathon #2, exploring census data. Glad to have you all with us and hope you'll take in the presentations today and learn about all the data and tools and techniques for using census data. We have some great presentations coming up, and we'll participate over the course of the next month with that micro-Datathon. But first, some of you might be new to Data for Good and want to give a brief intro to our group. So Data for Good, we're a group of passionate, socially minded, and curious volunteers that use our data skills for good. Our aim really is to help nonprofit and social organizations to harness the power of their data and to leverage it to get the maximum impact in the community. So we here in Calgary, the Calgary chapter is part of a national Data for Good group. We have 9 chapters across the country, as you can see, all the way from Halifax to Vancouver. All of our chapters, we have over 6,000 members across the country, and we've worked with 60 plus nonprofit organizations and many events over the last 7 years that we've been active. We're always looking to expand across the country, so if you know somebody in another city that's not on this list, please send them my way and we'll possibly start a new chapter. So here in Calgary, our goal is to put data into action for social good in Calgary. We started in 2013 and now have over 1,700 members in Calgary. So we work in a number of different ways, partnering with those local nonprofit organizations. We run our major events 1 or 2 times a year, these large weekend datathons with larger organizations, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. We also have this concept of our data core and our data ambassadors that work with nonprofit for smaller projects that we launch a number of times over the course of the year. There's a project ongoing right now with the Alberta Law Foundation, and soon we'll be launching a project with the Canadian Mosaic Foundation. So in the next week or so, you'll be getting an email communication from us, giving you some information on that project. And it'd be great to get some volunteers to work on that project. We also run our meetups, typically once a month on the 4th Thursday of the month. Most of you have registered to our meetup group. Please share that and tell your friends about that meetup group and have them join. We also, our Twitter handle is @DataForGoodYYC, and we also are on the national website, www.dataforgood.ca. So in Calgary here, these are some of the organizations that we've worked with, some of the larger organizations, the datathons that we've done, and a number of smaller organizations to give you a flavor, as well across Canada, just a smattering of the organizations that various groups have worked with. So this year for our Datathon, we have been partnered with the Calgary Homeless Foundation, an amazing organization that's been around for many years, probably 8 or 9 years now, maybe 10, working on the strategy to end homelessness in Calgary, the 10-year plan you might have heard about. They have a back-end data system called HMIS, which is the Homelessness Management Information System. So we've been working with them for months, curating their data, bringing their data into analytics environments. Our intent was to have a datathon at the end of May, where we would bring together 100 people, typically at the University of Calgary, and have a Friday night, all day Saturday and Sunday morning. So for obvious reasons that had to be postponed. We're hoping that maybe we can do that sometime in the fall. We'll see. Maybe we'll have to do it virtually, but we'll see what happens there. But because we are delayed, there's still a lot of work to do and a lot of really interesting data that we want to continue to be using. And we've launched this idea of hosting these micro-Datathons. So we're launching a series of these micro-Datathons, one a month. Started last month, we'll be going for a few more months to get all of us more familiar with some of the open data that's available and the tools to be used related to homelessness and the Calgary Homeless Foundation. We put out publicly the data and all the documentation and instructions, and you guys have seen that for the last two micros. And really the idea is to provide you an opportunity to get familiar with the data, to use the data, practice your skills, learn some new skills, and contribute some of your insights as you're going through those analytics and visualizations to contribute to the community. So our first datathon, micro number 1, was about geospatial data analysis. So all the data, the shape files, the introductions, the challenges, all that is available. Also the recording and the instructions. So go to the Data for Good Calgary Meetup site under past events, April 23rd, and you'll see the links to all that data and all that information. And we'll be talking a bit more about that here shortly. So micro number 2 is all about exploring census data. The objective is to get all of us more familiar with the census data. 2016 was the last census. To use that data to work on some of our challenges related to homelessness. And as well, as I said, to provide an opportunity to prepare a range of analytics and visualizations that you can work on and share them with the Data for Good members. So this is our agenda for this evening. So I'm doing the intro here. The next we'll be having Sarah from StatsCan, who will be giving us a great in-depth presentation on using data from Statistics Canada. Hannah will then give us a refresh on how to access the data and how to share your results. Corrine will talk about the data models and challenges that we've prepared for you. Paula will come in and link up the two micro-Datathons together, and then we'll do kind of the wrap at the end. So without further ado, I will stop there, and I will invite Sarah Ahmed from Statistics Canada to join us, and we'll welcome Sarah, who's based out of Edmonton. And Sarah, if you can introduce yourself, give us your background, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you to Data for Good for having me here with you today and speaking with the group. So a little bit about me. I work with Statistics Canada as a consulting analyst, and basically that means that I get to work with data users in Alberta, and I act as a liaison between the data users and the subject matter divisions within Statistics Canada in helping data users access data, clarify any questions about data, and then in some cases get access to customized data. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I believe that you should have a deck or a PowerPoint with you that we'll have some hyperlinks. If not, just get in touch and we could definitely share this with you as well.
Yes. So sorry, Sarah. Let me
yeah,
just.
go
I
ahead.
forgot to make that announcement. So after the meetup this evening, if you go to this event, the May 28th event on the Meetup site, we will put in the comments section. We will put a link into Sarah's presentation, and we'll also put a link in to the info sheet, and we'll put a link into the recording of this event. So sorry, Sarah, please go ahead.
No, don't worry about it. Cut me off at any point, Jeff. Feel free. And if there's any questions, let me know. And I believe that there we'll also have some time for questions at the end as well. So, all right. So for today's discussion, it is a 30-minute discussion. I will not be getting into too much depth. There's so much from census data. So I will be covering really the highlights and some of our main data products from our census. So it will not be an exhaustive list. However, I do hope that I'll be able to get the across, and hopefully it will serve as a great starting point for you. Today I will be talking about Statistics Canada very briefly, and then we'll be discussing some of these main census data products. So once you do have access to the PowerPoint, you'll notice that each of these are hyperlinked, and that can hopefully make it a little bit easier if you are looking to get to any of these specific products right away here. But I will show you how to get to these right from our website as well. All right, so a little bit about Statistics Canada. We are Canada's national statistical agency. We're a federal department that's mandated to serve Canadians with high quality data. So we collect and disseminate the data. We have over 350 active surveys at any point. And in addition to that, we do have the Census of Population and the Census of Agriculture every 5 years. So the most recent census is 2016, and then our upcoming federal census will be in 2021. And we are considered to be the trusted source of information in Canada due to our accuracy and confidentiality standards. So that's a little bit about us. And then we'll start talking about just how you can go ahead and actually get your hands on the Statistics Canada data. So it's actually very simple. It's right on our website. We use our website to disseminate the information. So to get to our website, it's statcan.gc.ca. And I would encourage you, as we're going through this, that you pull up the website and try to go through it with me as well, just to familiarize yourself with where some of the stuff is located. So once you get to our website, you will be prompted for English or French, and then once you choose the language of your choice, you will find that our front page looks like this. It should look slightly different right now, just because we do have a COVID banner at the front here right now. So the screenshot was taken right before that, but it will look very similar to this. On the front page, you'll find that there's a link to the daily, which is basically where we have new releases posted every day, and you could basically follow our updates on there. On there, you'll have a link to different data visualizations, and you'll find key indicators right on the front page. However, for our discussion today, and just how to access data, we're going to be focusing on these blue banners at the top here, these different tabs right here. So in order to get access to data, there are two main streams. There are different ways of doing this, but just focusing on basically these banners, this is one way of doing it. You can click on the data tab here, and this will give you access to census and non-census data. However, for our purposes today, we will just be focusing on the census program. So you can get access to that just by clicking on the census program tab right here. From there, you'll find that this is what our census page looks like. There are several different things that are featured on here. Again, I will just be looking at the highlights with you today. So the first thing that you'll find is a little box here that you see to our left. And this is basically a quick link for our census profile. The census profile, you'll find here, it'll prompt you for a place name. So you're able, if you're looking for a specific place, Calgary, City of Calgary as an example, you can go ahead and you could put City of Calgary here, and you'll be able to quickly search for the census profile using that method. However, perhaps you're not necessarily just interested in looking at the census profile. There are other census data sets that you might find relevant. So in that case, you can actually select search all of 2016 census data and do that. And then another option is you'll see, and we'll cover this a little bit more just later in the presentation, you could do a comprehensive download of the census profile with the quick link right here, or you could do historical census data sets going back to 1991 through this link right here. So that is one of the quickest ways to get your census data. There is also on the right hand side here, you'll find the key indicators from our census data. So this is actually very handy if you're looking at comparing some of these highlights across the different provinces, and then you'll also see the Canada average on here. So I'm just going to show you what this looks like on the website here. So I'm just going to click here with you and just walk through that with you. So here I am on our website right here, and you'll see this is the front page. We do have some information related to COVID here, and you'll find a little bit more information here. We're interested in going to the census data right now, so I'm going to click on that right here. And you'll find that this is what we were looking at here. We have the census profile box right here, and then you have the key indicators right here. So one indicator that you might be interested in looking at, for example, if this is a little, sorry, let me just move this here. If I were to click this pull down menu, I could see different indicators across the different topics that are featured in the census. So for example, I could look at type of dwelling, and I might be interested in the number of people, persons living in collective dwellings. So a collective dwelling can be anything from a shelter to a hospital to a hotel, where someone has reported that that is their usual place of residence in May of 2016, and they didn't have any other place of residence. So here you'll find the different counts across the different the provinces, and then the Canada total. So it's meant to be a quick snapshot of a highlight, basically. All right, so just going back now to our presentation. All right, now if we were to scroll down a little bit more on that same census program page, we'll find that there are different hyperlinks that lead us to different parts or different kinds of information. So the first is data products, which will lead us to the different tables, whether it's a census profile or tables that are a little bit more complex. Then we have analytical products that go into a little bit more in depth on what some of the numbers mean. Then you have the reference materials. So if you are interested in knowing what exactly is the definition of a specific variable in the data, this is where you would go to get that additional information. You might be interested in geography. So if you're looking to find out, if you're looking for maybe boundary files, this is where you would find them. If you're interested in the different standard geography definitions that we're using, this is where you would find that information. Then you have the link for data visualization right here. So this could be, you might be interested in taking a visualization, adding it to a report. So that's something that you're free to do as long as you are citing it. You're free to use the available visualization that's on here. And then perhaps you're already aware of some of the data products that are publicly available on our website, and you do want something that's a little bit more customized for your research. This is where you can basically reach out to us by following this link and getting in touch with us for some custom work. So for the rest of the discussion today, I will be focusing on the data products link here. So that's where we'll find basically the main products that we will be talking about. So once I click on that, it will take me to this page right here that basically talks about the main data products. So starting with the census profile. So we talked about the census profile a little bit, but I do want to show you essentially what it looks like and give you and share with you the look and feel of the census profile. So the census profile it essentially looks like this. It is more of a one-dimensional table where it will have all the different variables listed across the geographies and then across the by male and female breakdown. You can have up to 2 geographies side by side here, and it'll help you if you're looking to compare and contrast. So just for our purposes today, I chose City of Calgary, which is the census subdivision, and then side by side by Calgary Census Metropolitan Area, or the greater City of Calgary. And that having that side by side would help me see what the differences are between them. As you'll see here, there's population count for 2016. It's hidden here behind this, but 2016, 2011, population percent change, so on. However, it doesn't just stop there. So the way that the profile works is you can have a page that has all the different variables, or you could actually browse through all the different variables by topic. So here you'll see all the different topics that are included in the census profile. So you have Aboriginal or Indigenous peoples, you have education, and so on, moving on to journey to work, mobility, population. And most recently, we did include here a COVID-19 relevant indicators. So it's not newly collected data, it's still data that was collected from a 2016 census, but they are indicators that could be relevant to someone who might be working with COVID impact. So that is an option that has been newly added. So I do want to go back to our website and just show you again what that looks like on the website itself. So here again, this is after I've selected the census program on the website. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to data products right here. And then from there, I will choose the census profile. And from there, I have the option of choosing the place name. When I click Calgary, it'll ask me, okay, what exactly do you mean by Calgary? Do you mean the city of Calgary? Do you mean the metropolitan area? Do you mean any of these locations? I am going to choose the city of Calgary right here. And from there, I will choose the Calgary metropolitan area as well. And so here I have the numbers for each side by side. Sorry, I keep trying to move this here to show you what it looks like. Okay, and then so here we have a page with all of the different variables just listed underneath each other here. You can wish to view it this way. However, if you don't want to browse that way, you can also choose the by topic, and that might make it a little bit easier for you. So maybe I'm interested in housing. I would choose basically the topic, and I'll see the actual variables that are related to housing. From there, I can actually download the data that is relevant from here. So I could click on this little download right here, and then I could download the data as displayed, or I could do a comprehensive download, and I could download basically, if I am looking to download all of the municipalities, I could do that all at once. Or if I'm looking at all the dissemination areas, I could do that at once. So it does give you a little bit more of an option if you are, especially if you're taking this data and you're putting it into another program. It's going to take you a lot of time if you're doing one location at a time. So this is a nice option for you, where essentially it gives you the option of doing a whole bunch of locations at the same time. And then you'll see all the different formats that are available to you for download. So that is basically the census profile. Now, I'll go through other data products that are available to you from the census as well. So the second option here, now I'm back to that census data products page. So just so you know where I'm getting these links from. We finished talking about the census profile. Now I'm looking at the highlight tables. The highlight tables are, well, they discuss basically just that, highlights from the census, and or key indicators, and it allows you to compare these indicators across the same levels of geographies or multiple geographies at once. So it can be very handy in that way. So let me just see. Yes, so this is an example of a highlight table right here. If I click on highlight tables, it takes me to topics, and in this case, it's looking at education. And this table looks at highest level of educational attainment by sex and selected age groups. And you'll see here that it gives me the option of basically seeing this table for various different geographic levels. So I might be interested in provinces or census metropolitan areas. And then it gives me all these various options. So I'm going to go back to the website and we'll look at it together here. So again, I'm just going to start at the census page here. I'm going to click on data products again. And from there, I will click on highlight tables. And you'll see here, it's going to ask me which topic I'm interested in. Let's look at housing together. Or actually, let's look at type of dwelling. That might be more relevant. So here it has occupied private dwellings by structural type of dwelling, and say I am interested in comparing the data across different municipalities. So that would be census subdivisions right here. And this is what a highlight table looks like. So it'll have all the different geographies here that allows you an easy comparison for the different variables that are featured in that table. And you'll notice it'll have, depending on the table, there will be different filters at the top here that you can adjust it based on what your preference is. And from there, you're also able to download the file as displayed, or the entire table. So that might also be a good option as well. All right, so moving on to the next data product. The next data product is a Focus on Geography series. So the Focus on Geography is very handy if you are looking at a specific geography. It's basically a report that has key insights across the different topics And there are insights that are not necessarily found in other data products. So it is something that I would encourage you to look at if you are looking at a specific geography. It might be a little bit too much if you are looking at various various geographies all at once, but let's look at it together and it will give you a good idea of what it looks like. So again, I'm going to go to the census page just so you know how I'm pulling up this information. So going to census, and then I'm clicking on data products right here. And then I'm going to focus on geography series. And you could either browse here, or if you know exactly what you're looking for, you can go ahead and choose the location that you're interested in. I am choosing the city of Calgary. And this is what it looks like. So it'll pull up a nice little map for you, which you can print the map if you're interested in, and it will have some key insights here. And then as with the other products, there's always that nice little filter at the top or pull down menu that allows you to choose the topic of interest. And you'll find that it'll have different information. Sometimes it'll compare it across different geographies for you or different years. So it does vary by topic. So that might be also very handy. All right. All right, so going back to the PowerPoint here, and this is just, again, focused on geography. Now moving on to data tables, and data tables is actually one of probably my favorite data product that we have because it does give you a lot more detail, and the reason for that is it does cross various variables together, and it allows you to just take a closer look at the different populations through these breakdowns. So these tables do range in complexity. There's a lot of information there. When you first click on data tables, you're going to find a page that looks like this, and it allows you to browse the data by topic or by variable or by map. If this is the first time that you're looking at this page, I would recommend that you browse by topic because there you will find a lot of tables on here, so it can get a little bit overwhelming. If you're a little bit more comfortable with what's on there, browsing by variable is a very nice option as well. If you are interested in a specific location, then browsing by map is a great way to do it. So for purposes of today, I did select a specific table that I would like us to look at together. And in this case, the table number is right here if you ever want to refer back to it. The arrow is covering the number 9 there, but that's what that is. It's a 9. And the table title right here is type of collective dwelling, and collective dwellings occupied by usual residents and populations in collective dwellings. You'll find here a certain standard for all of these tables and the variables included. There's a number usually that follows the variable. What that number means is the number of breakdowns within each of that variable. So there are 16 types of collective dwellings, or 15 plus the total, making 16 categories that fall under this variable, and then 2 under this variable. So if you come across these numbers, that's what they mean. And then on here, you'll also find for each table right underneath the geography that is available for that table. So in this case, this table is available at the provincial level. And then you will have, beside that, the formats that are available. So the census tables you'll find for all of the data tables, the HTML and the Beyond 2020 format. So the HTML gives you a nice clean view here on the website. The Beyond 2020, if you're downloading the table, it it does allow you to customize the data a little bit more, and I'll look at that briefly in just a minute. So this right here shows you what the HTML version looks like. Here's the table title at the top right here, and then you'll find that this is what the table looks like. There's a filter usually at the top, depending on what the table is. It will allow you to customize it a little bit, and you'll have here the types of collective dwellings. So here you'll see a collective dwelling I mentioned is basically, could be an institution, it could be a nursing home, it could be a shelter, and so this might come in handy if you're looking at homelessness data. And here you have the number of collective dwellings and the population within these collective dwellings. Now you can adjust the filters and download the data based on the adjustments that you make, or you could also download the table in Beyond 2020. You'll find that Beyond 2020 files are referred to as IVT formats. So when you are downloading it, IVT, that's what it means. If you don't have Beyond 2020, you can download it for free from our website. It's not a Statistics Canada product, but we do have the download link available on our website there for you. So I'm just going to go to the next slide, and then I'll just quickly show you a few things about the value of using Beyond 2020 with this data. So here, this is what a Beyond 2020 file looks like. You'll find like the standard yellow and blue right here. So here you have in the yellow, the type of collective dwelling, and it's listed right here, the different breakdowns. And then you have another variable right here in the blue, and that's the number of collective dwellings. And then, sorry, let me just go back, and the population right here. The top here, there's the geography as well, and that's considered another dimension or variable right here. But say that you are actually interested in changing this. You don't necessarily like how this is featured. You want to change it up. Beyond 2020 actually allows you to make these changes and the format there. So you can actually do what we call is nesting. So you can have here, what I did was I switched the format, and I brought the geography here to the side, and then I moved the number of collective dwellings and the population within the shelter type. So I will show you how you can actually do that, and it's very simple. I apologize in advance. I know here I have the Beyond 2020 file up for the same table. It is fairly small. I couldn't adjust it, but hopefully it's, I just wanted to show you a very quick trick, and it shouldn't take too long. So here, this is the format that you see on the HTML. It's the type of collective dwelling. And here you have the number of collective dwellings on the population, and then you have the geography in gray at the top. So to basically change the format to what I have in the PowerPoint, you would quickly just left click from your mouse on geography and highlight it. And you would keep on clicking until you move it. You want to move it to wherever you want it to be. So it's going to highlight the area in blue that you can drop it in. So in this case, I do want to switch it to where it appears in yellow. And once it highlights like that, I am going to release the mouse. And now I have switched it. Now, the next step that I want to do is I want to see the information nested within each other. So I have the collective dwelling counts here in the population, and I want to have the breakdown of each these within the different shelter types. So what I'm going to do is I need to switch the location of this variable with the one at the top. So again, I am clicking left once and highlighting it, and I'm switching it with the top variable. And then after I do that, I'm simply taking the one that I want to nest underneath the other one, and I am going to click it until I see a little line underneath the variable that I am trying to nest it under. So I can actually do this here, or I could do it under within geography. That's really a preference on how you want to display the data. So in this case, I'm just going to release it, and this is what it's going to look like. And from there, if you want to continue working with the data from Excel or CSV, you're able to do that by just clicking File and then going to Save As, and you would select the file type that you want to save it as. So it will allow you to do that. So that is, so that's a quick how-to for Beyond 2020. All right, and just moving on right here. All right, so the next data product that we have here, again, we're working from the Census program or data product website, is the Census Program Data Viewer. So this is a nice option for those of us that like to basically interact with the data a little bit more, make it our own. Maybe you're creating a visualization product or a map that you want to put in a report. This can be a great option for you. So just to show you what it looks like right here, you'll have basically some indicators here, some of the geographic areas with these indicators. You'll have a nice little map here. It is hidden because I did expand this portion here, but it won't show up that way on your map. And then underneath, you'll have some bar charts that are relevant to the indicators that you choose. There's a little pull-down menu that allows you to customize that as well. And from here, once you expand, I have it expanded on here already just so you can see it. You can click I want to, and it will help you. From there, it'll let you choose basically what exactly you want to do. So maybe you want to select an indicator, find a place, you want to compare it with another location. So there are various options on here that allow you to customize it according to whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then from there, you can print the dashboard or the map, and that would allow you to put that information in a nice clean way in a report or something. So that is also an option for you. All right. The next data product from the data product page there is the Aboriginal population profile. The Aboriginal population profile has a very similar look and feel to the census profile. However, it is looking at Indigenous populations specifically at a specific geography as well. It does have a few more options though that are very helpful. You can here look at the population or the number of persons, or you could look at the dwellings or the number of households. It also gives you more filters, so you're able to select the topic as you would with the census profile, allows you to look at the different age groups, the sex, and then here you can also choose between residents on or off reserve, or both. And it does take you through several indicators, and it compares it for the different Indigenous identity groups. So something that can also be really helpful to you as well, depending on what you're researching. All right, so that takes us to our next product. So again, from the same page, we're looking at the census data products, and this is for our public use microdata files. So our public use microdata files are our census microdata. It's the non-aggregated data. It has all of the individual records basically removed to make sure that everything is still confidential. It is a sample of the full data. It's not the full data, but it allows you basically, it gives you a little bit more freedom if you do want to work with microdata. The way that you obtain the data is very simple. I'm going to just refer to our website again. So again, if I go to the census right here, and you click on data products, you'll find it's right here, the public use microdata files. We have the individual file and the hierarchical. You'll find a little description of each if you were to click on it right here. And if you're interested in ordering it, you just click on more information and then you click on order right here. They are free, but you do have to order it. And then you just fill out the information and you submit it, and then we will be in touch with you to get to follow the remaining steps. There's no cost for the census microdata files. Here there's a general for conditions for ordering, but that's more general. So, but for these, you want to go through this information and submit it, and then from there we would contact you and go with the remaining steps. All right, so moving on from that. All right, the last data product that I'm going to be talking about today is the selected 2016 Census Data, the COVID-19 supplement. So this is a new option on the census program website, and it's more relevant to the pandemic today. So if you were to click on that, you'll find that there are data sets. Again, for the census page, these are indicators that have been selected that might be of relevance. It's not new information. You'll find here, for example, population in nursing homes or residences for senior citizens and the different download options you'll find here. However, that's just for the census data. We do have other COVID-related data products, and you'll find that there's a banner right here, and it will take you to the COVID portal, which we have all sorts of different projects that are currently taking place. There are constant updates related to that. So if that is something, if you're someone that might be assessing impact, I would strongly encourage you to look at that portal as well. Which features more than just the census data. All right, so that leads me to the end of the presentation. As I said at the beginning, it is not an exhaustive list by any means of the different census data products. There's a lot more. So if you find that you do need a little bit more information about what is available, or perhaps you're interested in getting some information about what something means, or it could be that you're interested in a custom product, let us know. Our email is right there, our phone number to contact us. If it's a question, if you have a question that might benefit the group today, we do encourage you to use the Slack channel. And that way anyone that's in attendance today can also benefit from that question and the response to it. So thank you very much, and thank you, Jeff. So I will let you take over from here.
Great, Sarah. Thanks so much. That was an amazing presentation. A lot of really great information. So we really appreciate that. There's just a couple of quick questions I'll ask, but I'll just reemphasize what you said around the questions. So once people start, playing around and digging in deeper, they'll have more questions. So in our instruction sheet, we have some information there on how to join the Data for Good Alberta Slack. And within that, there's a channel for the micro-Datathons. So if you have questions, put them in that channel. Everybody will see them. And we'll get Sarah to answer the ones for her, but then we'll get Corinne or Paula or others to answer other questions as well. But it's great for all of us to see them. So just a couple quick questions, Paula. A couple related to Beyond 2020.
Okay.
That this is actually a special program or a different program needed to browse the data. And then a follow on is that it seems that that's just available for Windows. Is there a Unix or Mac versions?
Oh, that's a good question. I have to get back to you. I'm not sure if
Okay.
it's there. Once you do click on that link, however, that I have, it does post the system requirements for Beyond 2020. The tricky thing is it isn't, it's not a Statistics Canada product.
Well, looks like we're frozen. Henna, are you available?
Yes.
Okay, so sorry, well, looks like something happened to Sarah's line. So we'll thank her for that presentation and go on to the next section. So Henna will talk about data access and how to contribute your analysis to the group.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Henna. I'm part of the Data for Good core team. And I'm just sharing with you guys this document, which has instructions on how to participate in micro-Datathon and the challenges and so on. And the part that I will be talking about is how can you access the data that is available for this micro-Datathon, and how can you share your results and how can you communicate with us. So in the document, the first part is about that. So all the data that you will need, we have posted it in data.world and as a project, which is called micro-Datathon 2. And let me take you guys to the webpage for data.world. Here, what you will do, you will have to do is sign up first. It's very easy. Sign up, and then once you're sign up, you can log in like I have here. And you can either search here for Data for Good. It's an organization, and it should, our link is the first one. So once you are at Data for Good organization page, you can, if you just scroll down, you'll see micro-Datathon 2 for exploring Canada's census data. Click on that, and you'll get kind of a short overview about the project. And then if you want to look at the files, you can launch the project from the right side, and then you can see there's a project summary. There are some PDFs about, this is the details here, the document that I was sharing, and then instructions and few details about the data model. And then at the bottom, you can see all the data sets. So just click on it, and it'll tell you what is available in this particular data set. So in here, you have a data set summary, and then some CSV files, which have the data in there. So this is the basics about the data set, how to access it. And let's go back to the document. So all what I'm talking about is mentioned in this document, and there are links, so you can click on it and you can get to the project back. So for sharing your results, we would really like that you share whatever you've done with this data set. And the way we want you to share the results are by making insights. Okay, so let's go back to the page. So if you see on this page, there's the main page for the project, you'll see insights. And there are different insights here already. And for you guys to share your results, go and click on this button on the right, which says add a new insight. Click on it. And here, it's basically kind of a document. You can put text here. You can put some PNGs if you have made some really cool plots, put them there. If you found a problem that you want to share with us, put everything here. And when you're saving this, save this with your name, okay? So that we know who has put this insight up here. And then if you think you have done some data cleansing, or you have some interesting code that you think would be valuable for us for our major datathon, then share that with us. And for that, send an email to DataOps for Data for Good, and we'll send you the login credentials. We have a Nextcloud for Data for Good, where you can upload all your files, and again, name that folder with your first and last name so we can match it with the insights. And for during this month, for all the communication that you would need, please contact us via Slack. All the detail is here. We're usually pretty good at responding. Someone, within a day, someone will respond to you or point you in the right direction. So please contact us through that also. That's about it for me, I think. So.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Hannah. Corinne, you're next to tell us a bit about the data model and, importantly, the various challenges that we want people to tackle.
Okay, hello everybody. I'll just share my screen. And I'll start by going back to, let's see, where we were just now in Data for Good. At the top, we saw one of the files that Hannah had looked at, which is the instructions. I'll come back to that at the end because that includes all the challenges we want to be presenting you. We also have 3 other documents that you'll find useful. The first is this information document, and this repeats some of the information that we got from looking at Sarah's presentation. We start with interesting links or useful links. Then we talk a bit about the census profile, because that's a general way a lot of the information is available by all sorts of geographies. So that one is worth knowing about. Let's see. So I'm just going to see if I can get rid of this. There. So this will show you some information about the general census profile. After that, we move on to different formats, including this IVT Beyond 2020, and there's the link for downloading it. And here's an example for the web data service for developers. Here's a link to access it, and Paula provided a sample of our code for pulling information about census tracts. Data visualization includes a reference to the Census Program Data Viewer, which is a really neat GUI interface. That one of our challenges is for you to explore this, and do things with it. Then we get into the geography. So we pulled this from the website, and it shows the different granularity of geography and how it's all related. So that helps you put things into context. Canada, of course, is useful, the provinces, and then the cities are down here, the census subdivisions. And the census tracts are quite nice because they're smaller chunks within cities that you can use to compare population statistics with things that are in that neighborhood, like maybe shelters that would be in a census tract, and the statistics about the population in that census tract. That's one of our advanced challenges for you. And finally, we have a section here called Focus on Homelessness. And it talks about the data tables again and highlights some of the categories that could be of interest. And we highlight some specific data tables, like low income by immigration status, or housing shelter cost to income ratio. We give you some useful stats that you'll see in the census data that relate to low income measures after tax, low income cutoffs after tax, and market income. And these links all provide definitions for you. Reports, and we have you look in some of these, like the core housing need and the homeless shelter capacity and the collective dwelling will all show up in your assignments. So in addition to having that, you will see that we have the instructions and we have the data model. So this data model, you will see it much better once you go to data.world because you can blow it up on your screen. But you'll see that we have the census, the Statistics Canada geographic areas like country and province, census subdivision, which is Calgary, for example. And then we got data tables, the generic census profile tables, which have those 2,000 plus data variables you can explore. And then we also have some specific data collections like dwellings occupancy, the collective dwellings occupancy like hospitals and shelters. We have homeless shelter occupancy, which drills into more detail for emergency shelter, women's shelters, and transitional housing. And this one here is the core housing need that looks into people's housing needs and focuses on 3 areas of problems, whether it's too expensive, it's inadequate, or it's insufficient. So it's not big enough for your needs, it's in poor condition, or it's too expensive. This will help you dig into that information. And finally, these blue boxes here, they tie back to our first micro-Datathon. I'll let Paula talk about that in a minute. But for our challenging or advanced challenges, you can look at the data that we presented in the first Datathon and tie it to information from the census. So this data model helps you put everything into context. You'll see that in the project summary, I've included this data model and then also mentioned the data sets and where you will find the data in this data model in the various data sets that we've included in this project. So between the project summary that you see up here and the data model, it should help you find your way around. This information sheet is intended to get you started quicker into understanding the StatsCan website. I think we will also be adding the presentation from Sarah here because there's quite a bit in common, and between the two, I think you will come up to speed much more quickly than you would otherwise. Finally, this Canada Census Profile 2247 is a spreadsheet that I've created to help translate what is inside this large general census profile, this huge treasure trove of information. So you'll see here the categories like population and families and housing and income. This is the line items that you'll see. And you'll see you typically need context, like 0 to 14 years means nothing unless you know it's the age group. This column tells you whether there's counts, percentages, dollars, rates, and then these try to explain the hierarchy so you can quickly see the hierarchy. These show different ways the data can be summed because you'll see, for example, in population, you have to be careful not to just add everything if you're working with this because there's a lot of repetition, like 0 to 14 years, or do you want it broken down more finely? And when you get to the older population, even more so, you want to be careful you're not repeating counts. So we created these columns to show you different ways you can sum the data that avoid double counting. We talk about whether these measures are additive or base or non-additive. And a base means like here, this is the full population. So if you ever want to rate, you can take any of these numbers and divide it by the base to get your rate. Last column of interest is homelessness. So we put Ys in a number of columns that we think could be relevant to homelessness and studying homelessness issues. If you see any that we overlooked, get in touch with us because we can update this to add more columns. So out of the 2,247 values you have here, variables, it's easier to zero in on the ones that are going to be relevant. So that is a lightning view of the data model. And now we'll get into the challenges.
So, sorry, Corrine, but before you review the challenges, and maybe this is a question for Henna, or is that a number of people, when they click on the link in the Google document for the Datathon 2 project within the data.world, it's saying page not found or 404 or other issues. So there's...
So on which one of these documents?
On the instructions?
On the instructions.
Yeah. Can you click on that micro-Datathon number 2 link?
I just did. This is the one you're referring to? Yeah. This is the one I think you mentioned. So it's working for me, but we'll make a note of that and get somebody outside of our group to test it and to check the security in general on this data world data set.
So I think I recall that happening to me as well. But I think if you join data.world and you're within you're signed up and then you try to get to that, I think you'll find it.
So it could be somebody that hasn't signed in up for data.world yet, that maybe they can't see it.
Okay, but
so
we will certainly check that out and let everybody know if there is a problem with that link.
Okay. And there may be something with security that we can open this up to the entire web instead of just people who have joined data.world. So we can discuss that afterwards.
Okay.
So are you ready for some challenges?
Yep.
Okay. So we get to the challenges. It's at the bottom of this micro-Datathon document. And we've split them into 3 levels of basic, intermediate, and advanced. And you'll see that there's a reminder here that if you go to the Data World project summary, it will tell you where to find the data. So for the basic, I've spelled it out for people. But after the basic, part of the challenge is starting to find your own data and knowing how to find your way around. So it wasn't so nice for the intermediate or the advanced. So starting with the basic, you can go to core housing. I provided the link. This is one of the things that Sarah showed us. It gives core housing needs across Canada. Then it shows a stat by cities, census metropolitan areas. So for Calgary, this would be the greater Calgary region. You can see we do quite well here. We're lower than I expected. We're at 11.3%, doing much better than Toronto. And then at the end, we have dimensions of core housing. So you can see that we've got affordability, suitability, and adequacy are the 3 measures. And there's a dictionary that you can look up what these mean. There's downloads you can do by different levels of geography. And finally, there's your census program data viewer. And for the first assignment, I thought we'd make it really easy. You don't need your own tools at all. You can just click on this link and it takes you into their census program data viewer. And I've given you a few things to look around, but really just kick the tires and get familiar with using this. It's a fun tool to play around with. Next, we'll go back to our document. I hope. Yeah. And then I make a reference to our information sheet. Now this is the document, the first document in this list. And in this document, we had the section called Focus on Homelessness. And I'd like you to go there and just look at the various links we provided. If you find a StatsCan site that you think we should add, let me know, because I'm happy to keep this document evergreen with other interesting work the StatsCan has done that we can use to better understand homelessness. Third assignment, you can look at shelter stays. And you can look at shelter stays by emergency shelter, by transitional or women's shelters. And you can look at the shelter stays by the population. Was this for youth or families or women in the general population, or men, or everyone? So that's the kind of information you can see in the shelter stay data set. And then of course, in the Calgary Census subdivision, you'll see lots of stats around income and housing and look at the whole thing, see what you think could be relevant, but then decide what kind of plots you could make combining data from the shelter stays and from the homeless shelter capacity. And I've provided these two data sets here. And the way you read this is you go to Canada Census 2016 Alberta data, which is this data set here. And if you open this data set, you will see that we have AB Census subdivision. So this is City of Calgary Census Profile data. And then the homelessness, what this guy here will contain your homeless shelter capacity. So these are the two data sets you need for this assignment. And then the last basic assignment is to take your favorite visualization tool and just choose some stats, like maybe the low income, the LIM AT and the LICO AT, which if we search in here in my metadata, you can see in the income section, we got various stats around low income after tax, low income after tax, and the LICOs, the low income cutoffs. So this gets you used to using this metadata spreadsheet and gets you used to using some of the low income stats. And this is where you can get more creative in what you present to us. Again, here are the various data sources you can use. Now, that's your basic. If you want to get a little more complex, you can go back to core housing and you can start to look at how things have changed over time, because there's some variables, rate variables for 2006, 2011, and 2016. And so see if you can do anything interesting with that. Look at the collective dwellings, another data set that Sarah had mentioned. And it's got stats for shelters and nursing homes, and how can you tie the data from those collective dwellings into other data sets. Finally, just looking at the census profile data, we recommend looking at our CSD file, census subdivision, which covers City of Calgary and City of Edmonton. I think also Red Deer if you want to throw that in, or you could throw in Vancouver, Toronto, you name it. And just start comparing, get familiar with looking at several areas together and what kind of visualizations can you do. And we believe heard from Sarah, and I've seen this on the City of Calgary website for single wards or single communities, the same profile data, which is those 2,000 plus variables that you can see about any city or any community. City of Calgary already owns it. So we are going to see if we can get from City of Calgary a dump of all the communities. So it's easy to look for one community like Mount Pleasant, but it would be nice if we could get a dump of all the communities and a dump of all the wards. And then we can tie that in with other data that we collected and we're using in the first Datathon. So practicing on Calgary and Edmonton, that just gets you ready for when we can practice on various wards in Calgary or communities in Calgary. And the advanced set is to build on what we did in micro-Datathon number 1. And I'll leave that to Paula to describe. And to just, now that you've got so much experience, go back and look at the census profiles, these detailed data sets, and all the other data sets, tables, reports, etc., that StatCan has provided to see what else we can pull together. So this one is the most, or these two are really the most creative because it's giving you carte blanche to start really pulling things together. And we hope you'll share your work as you start to build visualizations, because that could spark other people to have other ideas and drive this forward. So that's all I have, Jeff. Any questions?
Thanks very much, Corinne. That's great for the challenges. So I would encourage people to do your analysis and share those. If you do have questions, put them on Slack and we'll answer them, and other people can share them as well. To get back to the micro-Datathon number 2 on data.world, we have made that public now, so the link should work, and a number of people have tried it and have said that they can't access it. So that's where the stuff is that we've gone through. So to wrap things up, Paula will kind of talk a little bit about micro number 1 and number 2 and how they kind of relate together.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So hopefully I can follow all those wonderful presentations. I'm going to try. So I seem to have the slide at the beginning. I only have 4 short slides to show to give us some just a guide for me, I guess, and show you what some people submitted to us, which is was wonderful that they did that, and that's what we want you to do. So if you just look at this census data, 2016, but there are historical references, censuses as well. So that's wonderful, and we're going to have future ones, and it's not just about 2016, but that is the most recent. And it's context rich. We have so much information, so many topics and so many attributes to explore, and all about people, and thinking about the fall and homelessness, it is also all about people. So the goal here is, how do we tie in what we learned from one to the second one and beyond. And I'm going to go through what 3 people did, and it's interesting because they sort of communicated all through. Number 1, they all communicated through Slack first. So do that just for a question. You don't need to share anything yet. I personally will try to get better at looking at it sooner. And I know that Jeff is on it. So there's people watching. So Jennifer Walker, who I think is on the call, she did wonderful analysis on the shelter stays, and shelter capacity and how many people actually showed up. There's some good trends. This is just a snapshot. There's all of them that represent this plus more, because some of them were referenced the second floor and the first floor, for example. And we do have a shelter data set coming from the federal government. So that sets us up for comparison. Comparison is something within Calgary to, Calgary as a whole, and then Calgary between other cities, etc. What the other thing I really liked about what she did is she sort of analyzed this cross plot of what each shelter said they specialized in. And if we read some of the things across here, you see Indigenous, you see for women, you see for men, for seniors, for families, and we're going to get all of those things. We can enrich insight by utilizing all those dimensions that are in the census. So I think you know, you go forward by bringing in this other information about the general population with a wonderful huge data set from StatsCan. And there's certain characteristics of who are vulnerable that we can actually think about. You know, what are the best data sets or combinations within that 2247 that will help us with vulnerable people that we're interested in for the homeless fall datathon. And Corinne's done that start with the yes column, and I'll show you that later anyways. So always think about other data. And I think Jennifer also was a case where she found other data, and we're going to look at it to make sure we know when we have all the shelters. The other thing that came out of this analysis was that some shelters won't be mapped, and I think that's intentional. We want to map things, and the whole exercise number one was to map things, but other analysis is also important. The second thing that was over in the Slack channel, he actually, Roman probably contributed something first, and he created some Python code to geocode the Kijiji rent addresses. So there's code out there. You can contribute on GitHub. That's where he has it. I gave the link there, and you can see that in Slack. What I feel this sets up any of us to do, and I sort of, you know, there's many ways and there's many approaches, and it's up to groups of people or individuals, whichever is in your best, in your toolkit yourself or what you're curious in. I think he did this because he was curious. So you can start from Python. I tried the modern app tools have capability around postal codes. We have previous data from other datathons that link postal codes to, and this little snapshot is saying, you know, there's a file where I matched up the postal code and it to a lat long, and then to a census tract ID, and then to a community. So remember, a census tract ID to community is a many-to-many relationship, depending, you know, how you want to analyze things. But, you know, I got a map, and we went through that process of how to bring in a TopoGeo map, or for Power BI, and a shape map. We didn't go through that, but that's how you would do that for Tableau, and you're able to visualize. And that's what you're going to bring your learnings over from the micro-Datathon one. And if you need more help, you know, just put that on, I was going to say tweet it, but don't tweet it, put it on the Slack channel. So we can relate all sorts of dimensions that census tract, and use this Kijiji data now. Maybe compare that to core housing need. Maybe what we ultimately want to find out is, are rents too expensive? What is a good price? You know, how does that affect homelessness? And the third one I'm going to show is Jeremy. And Jeremy, I just love his comment. No, I love his comment. Like, I'm not laughing, I actually love it, because there's a few great things in there. So he needs help, which is wonderful. He reached out. He was wondering if it was too late. And I said, what, late? It's never too late. Even in looking at micro 2, you might look at micro 1, and we kind of want to tie them all together anyways. And of course, we'll try to help, and I'll promise that I'll try to be on there sooner. And then what I love about this is, you know, the census data from micro 1, which was there at a community level before we tried, you know, before Corinne said we know they have more data and we should try to get more from the city that originated from the 2016 census. But what we did was get the one from Open Data. He worked on it, which is wonderful. But he says it really lacks information, and he's looking particular on race, which is actually a great idea, because I don't know if you listened to the COVID-19 information lately, but there are some key things to do with ethnicity and race and etc. So we want to look at those things. And he's tying it to homelessness, which is the right thing to do, I think, and mentions curiosity, which is what we'd like to hear and see in Slack, and makes us all try to find more better data. Employment rates, mobility, whatever. Well, not whatever, they're all key things. So the goal here is, I think, in this mini datathon too, the census data has a lot of that. We need to find it, you know, so maybe a learning from micro 1 was there was a gap. Micro 2 will try to fill it. Micro 1, we learned how to map. We could map. Micro 1, we also learned that there's valuable analysis to do alongside maps that is just important, and that's what we can do. So this is the end. Going forward, so we can utilize what we learned about maps and shape boundaries from Micro 1. We can utilize what has been done in Python or anything else that people are okay with sharing. And Jennifer and Anthony also ended up creating their own data.world to share insight, but we'll fix that up if that was an issue. Whatever issue you guys had, we'd like to hear and fix it. And you know, there's also those videos. You could do the QGIS to relate to Census Tract FSA, or if you want to know how to use our previous files or you're interested, you can put that on Slack, and I know I can answer those ones. And you can express that other data that you bring in whatever shape that you would like, Census Tract or any census related shape. We are also asking to compare between cities, so you have other options there too. I love this yes flag that Corrine did in her metadata file, and I'll just go to that file quickly because, you know, I felt bad that I didn't have anything to show. No, but I had to find it, which is the other problem with having Windows up. And here it is. So this is what I want to show you. And we were reorganizing stuff. Hopefully the screen adjusts soon. This was where Corrine was. Maybe the screen is not going to adjust soon. Oh, it is. There it is. So under the Census, Canada Census 2016 Alberta data, I did get the Census Tract CSV for the 2247 topics variables. Which that metadata file really helps decide or help us figure out what they are, right? And if you look down here, there's a query open to everybody. So if you'd like to join up, if you know you're interested in analyzing small, you know, granularity, maybe smaller than community, join it up with the Canadian Census. This, you might want to actually take your data, download the data from this query, because what I did is took all the things associated with the right member ID, and then I really liked the fact that there was that property, a type, right? This number isn't always a count. Sometimes it's a ratio or a percentage. And Corrine already spoke to, you know, some of them are additive and some of them are not. Counts are additive, percentages, no. And she had this category. So first of all, if you want Calgary small parcels that team up with census, look at the query, and don't ever forget about that wonderful work she did with the metadata members, because it's great. And if we identify other data files that Sarah was talking about, if you don't start getting your data from the 2247 census profile, then the member IDs probably won't correlate because you're in a different context. So just to be aware of that. And hopefully with everybody working, we'll be adding data sets. We'll be making sure we get the most relevant ones for the fall datathon, and we'll learn a lot from everybody. And I think that's it, unless there's questions to answer.
That's great, Paula. Thanks. Thanks so much for reviewing that. Pretty exciting results from micro number 1. And so we're looking forward to everybody contributing and working away and creating those analytics and visualizations for micro number 2. So the challenges have been set out there at the various levels, the basic, intermediate, and advanced, and all the data is there. So I would encourage you to get on data.world on that micro 2 project and ask your questions. Use Slack for questions and comments, and share your insights. So with that, we'll sign off for this evening. Thanks so much. Thanks again to Sarah for the excellent presentation, and to the Data for Good team that's really worked so hard behind the scenes. Ruth, Corrine, and Paula, and Henna, and others. The whole team really, it's a lot of work to put these micros together, but we're glad everyone's enjoying them and are finding them useful, and it's all for a good cause as we work towards the fall Datathon with the Calgary Homeless Foundation. So thanks for participating. Stay safe, and we'll see you next month on June 25th, where we'll launch micro-Datathon number 3. Take care.